Buongiorno, good morning and welcome to the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS. It's round one of the Endurance Cup 2023 and where better to do so than at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. They call this place the Temple of Speed and with good reason. It is a phenomenal venue and we are getting ready for time qualifying. It is a very busy day of scheduled racing ahead of us. Track temperature currently a push over 21 degrees Celsius, air temperature at 16.7 degrees Celsius for the time being, but it is going to get hopefully warmer. The humidity though is high. There is the threat of potential rain showers over the course of the day. It could make things particularly intriguing. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me John Watson, and after what we saw in free practice and pre-qualifying yesterday, it's going to be a very interesting day at the office.
Well, we've got three 15-minute qualifying sessions. And if it follows what we have seen on the two sessions on Saturday, it's going to be an intensely competitive field. Here is the Monza track, 3 miles around, and there's 11 turns. The tracker once again trying to beat me. We get back to the start-finish line and crosses the line. So you see the two sectors, into Sector 1, into Sector 2, and then the final section from the up to the entry into the Ascari chicane, then down through what used to be called the wonderful, wonderful Parabolica corner, but now been renamed after Michele Alboreto. So Alboreto is the name of the final turn, turn 11, and then the rush. Now, the finish line and the start line, as you may see in the map, 2 parts of the racetrack, 2 different parts. Not uncommon, but look, it's dry. We were concerned yesterday in our broadcast, why are we going to have a wet qualifying session? Thankfully, it's not wet, it's dry. Ambience not bad, track temperature for this time of morning, not bad. So I'm expecting to see this 55-car field. It's going to be, well, it's going to be, let's say, a very, very busy 15 minutes for all 3 drivers in each of their 3 sectors.
Yeah, you're looking at the moment at Lorenzo Patrese, the man who actually managed to put the Treso Attempto Racing Audi in first position in pre-qualifying yesterday, despite the fact that they are in the Silver Cup. Could we actually get to see a silver driver take pole position? He did a fantastic job yesterday. The 17-year-old son of Riccardo Patrese, of course, who raced in Formula One from 1978 all the way through to 1993. What a fantastic opportunity for this young 17-year-old. He's turned a lot of heads here today.
I mean, he did, I think, an outstanding job. But you have to maybe look more. Raffaele Marcello would be one of the drivers in car combinations that you would have to maybe put your money on if you're making a bet before this qualifying session gets underway. You're going to be looking at the Akodas ASP Mercedes team, Raffaele Marcello, Jules Gounod, and Timo Boguslavski. A very, very strong lineup indeed, as virtually all the way through the field, but primarily in the pro car lineups, just stellar driver lineups and stellar cars. The one car that is yet to really sort of impress us, as one that I'd hoped would have done, have been the 2 AF Corsa Ferrari, the brand new 296. And yesterday they just didn't appear to have the kind of pace that one would have expected. Now maybe Ferrari were doing a few little things just to keep that car, the performance in check. So there is one of that's the 51. So keep an eye on these 2 AF Corsa Ferrari 296. It is just truly a magnificent piece of engineering.
Now, as we mentioned before, there are 3 15-minute qualifying sessions. Every single driver in each car is going to get the chance to go out onto the circuit and put some lap times in, but they only get 15 minutes in which to do so. Lorenzo Ferrari is going to take the number 87 Mercedes out onto the circuit first. We are getting underway. The lights have gone green on the exit of the pit lane. The timer has started. Apologies for the slight delay. There has been a few power issues here at the circuit. Some storms in the area have damaged the infrastructure to a certain extent, but fortunately everybody has been working like a beaver this morning to get everything up and running, and full commendation to the entire circuit team here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. There were some teething problems, but they have now got on top of them, so we can bring you qualifying.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of panic going on because there was no power around about 8 o'clock. It was coming and going, but finally they managed to get the power and it's staying on as we look into the Lamborghini of Sandy Mitchell. And so I think we did see the field is, they've got 15 minutes. The reality is they only need 1 clear flying lap, which will not be an easy challenge as Dries van Thor waits to leave the pit lane in the WRT. BMW. Again, another car that you'd have imagined was going to be close to the front in terms of grid position. But it's still a work in progress for the BMW M4. It's a fantastic car. I looked at it on Friday with some of the body bits removed, and I'm staggered by the engineering, the sophistication of the engineering that is going into these GT3 products these days.
I mean, there are some very interesting and intriguing stories that have cropped up since the free practice and pre-qualifying yesterday. Obviously, one of the biggest concerns as we watch the bronze driver, Klaus Bachler, getting the 911 Porsche from Pure Racing up to speed. One of the big talking points coming into qualifying is going to be an interesting one. Obviously, keeping an eye on Klaus Bachler. He won this race back in 2019 and in 2021 as well, so he's going to be one to watch in the Bronze Cup. But one of the big talking points is going to be Ferrari. Their new 296 car was not quick yesterday.
Yeah, that was the sort of focus I had. And I think the car, as a road car, it looks truly magnificent. As a race car, again, the degree of engineering that's going into these GT3 products across all the manufacturers who are involved is, I'm speechless. You can hear. Now, you see cars filtering out of the pit lane, must stay to the left as they come down into the Variante Rettifilo, or the first chicane. And now, with what we're just 2.5 minutes into this session, cars still yet to record a flying lap. And that will be coming up fairly shortly. So Fabian Schulze is currently the car that's the top of timing and scoring based on the time he did on his out lap, which was at 2 minutes 37, which of course is about a minute and 50 seconds away. Sorry, about 50 seconds away from what would be a realistic lap time. Again, there is the problem. You got Porsche Palette up behind, and as one of the WRT BMWs, I'm not sure who's behind the wheel of that. I look down and see.
I think that might be Adam Carroll.
It is Adam Carroll indeed. So this is Adam stays to the right, coming up. Palette slips through, gets that purple sector 2, and still waiting to see a driver car pairing. But look at the traffic. You've got Palette on a flying lap, and he's confronted with 10 cars ahead of him, all weaving around, trying to get tire temperature. So Palette's backed out of it. He knows that there's no point in trying to bully his way through. And look, Mercedes coming up directly behind on full power, and then has to likewise bail. There's the man that many people are coming to watch.
Well, it's actually Augusto Farfus in the car.
Yes,
but the car is going to become as famous as the driver who's going to be in it, I think.
And don't forget that Valentino Rossi, in that pre-qualifying session yesterday, coming into Alboreto Curve, or as we like to call it, Parabolica, had an issue. We didn't see what caused the issue, but he ended up going off and tailing it into the Tech Pro barriers on the outside of Alboreto Curve, and that car then didn't take any further part in that pre-qualifying session.
So now we're getting some times in. Philip Saga on a dynamic GT Huber Porsche run has put the bronze Porsche number 55 on a 1:51.7. That just gives us a little bit of a banker. We're going to get a lot faster than that over the course of the session, but obviously you've got to dial in the car, get the tyres and brakes up to temperature. There's Miklas Born in the Winwood Racing number 157 that he is sharing with Zug and Schumacher. That is David Schumacher, of course, who is the son of Ralph, nephew of Michael, and cousin of Mick.
Yeah. So Palette again, purple sector 1. The lap time that I suspect everybody will be focusing upon will be that was set on Saturday. Jules Gunnar, beg your pardon, 1:46.1. So that was the quickest lap overall. Nothing was better than that in that pre-qualifying session. So purple first sector, green in that middle sector, but again confronted with foot. You can see 6-7 cars all directly ahead, and so he will definitely lose momentum, because finding a way around as he makes his way down into Alboreto will be a very courageous move down the inside, but he wisely avoids doing it, because it would have been more of a compromise to his lap than sitting behind.
Right, here we go. The Audis that were strong yesterday are strong again today. Lorenzo Petresi's just clocked in a 1:47.5. Christopher Mies has just put in a 1:47.6. So here we go. These are the real bandwagon laps as Steven Ballet has now gone second on a 1:47.547. That's 34 thousandths of a second slower than Petresi managed in his Audi a short while ago. As we watch the Get Speed car getting out of the way, that's Florian Scholz, I do believe. There is the 99 of Lorenzo Petresi, the 17-year-old. Very new, of course, to the world of the GT World Challenge Europe, but my goodness me, is he making a big impression. As now Marcello goes quickest, yeah, 1:47.3.
Yes, I mean, for Petresi, here we are watching him on screen through Lesmo 1 into Lesmo 2. The fact that he was able to go wide early and find that clear lap and achieve that lap time is pretty impressive to me. But now the times, Dries van Voor in the BMW has now gone 1:46.8, followed by Christopher Haase on the Audi, and has changed Philippe Eng up to third place. So it literally, as the cars come across start-finish line, we're expecting to see the lap times dropping in terms of overall pace. 1:46.8, Dries van Voor. That's 7/10 around slower than we saw from Jules Gunnar yesterday morning, running much the same kind of time.
I wonder how quickly down that time we're actually going to break in, because we've only got 8 minutes of running on the circuit, and as we know, we have got the mother of all traffic jams around Monza, so they could be quite tricky to find a little bit more pace than that. But look at Petresi's sector times. They are very comparable as he comes through, down to 14th for the moment, but as he comes through across the line, second. That is very close indeed. Petresi is only 2 thousandths of a second slower than Dries van Voor, as now that is Christopher Mies trying to get up the inside of the Mercedes to get it out of its way, and very nearly tripping over it in the Rettifilio.
Yeah, that was just wasn't far enough down the inside to make that move, or intended move stick. So, but I mean, talking about like Lorenzo Petresi, he's had another lap where he's been running in relatively clear air, and while the incremental improvements weren't big ones, it'd be like 10ths here, 10ths there, it was enough to elevate him all the way back up onto the provisional second or first row of the grid, if this was good to be the grid, but only 2 thousandths of a second slower than Dries van Voor, who's a lot more knowledge, experience, and mileage under his belt. Raffaele Marcello comes across the line, does a 1:46.3.
Farfus.
It's Farfus indeed. Marcello 46.8, Farfus 40.40. So where have BMW, who were more or less, they weren't hiding their pace. They were doing obviously particular work that they wanted to work through. Now, when they have to go out and do qualifying, that's pretty impressive from the BMW.
Really impressive from the McLaren as well. Enrique Chavez in the Garage 59 bronze car has just popped up to 1:46.6. That's a very strong lap from the McLaren. So they've done a very good job there for Enrique Chavez. Marcello third, Eng fourth, and Dries van Voor fifth. So it is currently BMW, McLaren, Mercedes, BMW, Petresi up to sixth, or down to sixth, I should say. Thomas Preining has just cracked the top 20 in the Porsche on a 1:47.2. But Augusto Farfus in the BMW currently looking good, and Valentino Rossi's fans are going to be delighted.
So here are that's the second quickest car. He's just following behind Augusto Farfus, so he's improved in sector 1. That's a good improvement, just 0.2 of a second. So if he can maintain that level of performance through sector 2, sector 3, that is going to put the McLaren in a very challenging position. So the current quickest car in this session, that is still Augusto Farfus in the WRT BMW.
Enrique Chavez, they're coming up to the Variante Ascari. Another improvement there for the McLaren, a 36.1, only 0.02 of a second off the best in sector 2. This could be a really strong lap from the McLaren. They're only 0.29 down from Farfus, but I think this is going to be a much better lap. They've got a decent amount of space as well. That's going to help.
Yeah, that's key, because the BMW is closing up to another car. May have a slightly marginal difference on what he can do on the exit from Alboreto. Used to be Parabolic.
It's going to trip us up all weekend, isn't it?
I know. So comes across the line, and he's actually in effect dropped it, because Dries van Voor.
He's done it. Look at that final sector.
Oh, well, he's done it indeed. The timing and scoring on screen is actually a little bit ahead of what we're seeing on our screens here. So a 1:46.360, 36 thousandths of a second ahead of Farfus. Philippe Eng. So it's BMW second, third, and fourth. And McLaren is topping it all out with a 1:46.3.
That final sector from Enrique Chavez was mighty. He put it in a 36.1.
And part of the reason was he had clear air, whereas Farfus, who was directly ahead of him, was behind another car. And that's where the BMW might have been marginally compromise on the exit of that final turn.
Right now, Farfus is getting back on with it, and so too is Christopher Mies. Mies just did a 33.9 in Sector 1, a 36.3 in Sector 2. So Eng has come up to third as we know. Bortolotti, there we go, there's the 63 Lamborghini. It's just popped up to fourth position. That's more like it. We didn't really see the best of them yesterday.
Now the BMW, that 63 Lamborghini, it was all over the shop throughout the day, that areas where they were off the track, and it looked an uncomfortable car, but certainly overnight, whatever they've done to that car, they've found pace, and literally as cars are coming across start finish line as the optimum McLaren makes its way onto another lap.
Ninth. They've just got ninth place for Charlie Fagg. So do you know what? There's a lot of teams that have either done massive homework overnight or were clearly sandbagging yesterday after all.
I think there are a lot of teams' cars were, let's say, keeping their pace very close. There's Farfus once again coming across the line. It's personal overall fastest Sector 1, fractionally down in Sector 2, but where does he want to leave Farfus?
It's not an improvement in the end. The third sector was weak, unfortunately. Yeah. So they're going to try again. They've still got time, 3 minutes 15, but they've got traffic as Valentino Rossi himself watches on in the hope that the number 46 car can be in the top 3 as often as possible. He's got a lot of pressure on him when he goes out later to try and match this kind of pace.
I think maybe in a single lap on fresh rubber, if he gets it up to temperature. There's one of the Ferraris, the 296, flashing its lights. So waiting to see where the two Ferraris are going to. 51 Rivera in 13th position. So that's the best of the Ferraris overall right now.
Bortolotti's got a good chance here. He was really strong in the second sector, a 36.3 for him. So he's currently sat in 5th position as Dan Harper comes up into 4th position. Your mate comes up into 4th place.
But I mean, yesterday again, we didn't see this level of pace from the BMWs. And I mean, they're hovering around sort of mid-pack and wondering, well, what's going on? Why are they not at the front? Well, I think teams are learning that there's a time to show your pace and there's a time to do your homework. And today's the time to show your pace. Charlie Fagg, currently in 10th position, is second of the McLarens in the top 10. The other car is Chavez, who is still quickest overall. And we've got 1 minute 45 seconds of this session remaining, so Fagg will get one more lap, and then the checkered flag will be out to end this first session. It really has been not a surprise, I should say, but some of the performances have been outstanding. I mean, Lorenzo Patrese, who we were saying just massive, finds himself all the way down from 2nd to 12th position. Eddie Cheever, the 3rd in the Sky Tempesta McLaren, he's managed to elevate himself from, he was in the 40s yesterday, up to 11th.
So very strong performance so far.
And the big surprise of all to me is in 10th position, Raffaele Marcello in the 88. So that is actually the first Mercedes in the top 10 in 10th position.
0.448 of a second back from the McLaren as well. So that is a big shot for the car that essentially was last year's champion winning car. So here is Dan Harper in the BMW. Are they going to get up to 3rd or possibly even 2nd with this lap? Because this is a very strong run from Dan Harper. 3rd, that'll do nicely. 0.23 back.
Personal best in 1st and 2nd sector. Nothing improving in the 3rd sector, but enough in those 2 sectors to get up to 3rd.
Bortolotti's looking good. Farfus just did a 33.6 in the 1st sector. That BMW's got mighty pace in the 1st sector.
There are 4 BMWs in the top 6. There's only a Lamborghini in 5th, and the McLaren currently still fastest overall. So BMW, they didn't do homework. They knew where their pace lay. They just didn't want to show everyone. There is Farfus now, exited out of Lesmo 2, the run down under the bridge, under the part of the old circuit, fastest in Sector 1 by 0.3 of a second. That's massive.
It really is. Ferrari does have better pace now than they did yesterday, but Rivera is only 14th, and Alessandro Peguidi is only 24th, so there's still a lot to be done in the Ferrari's new car. But here is Farfus as he tries to make his way. He's trying to catch a little bit of a toe from the Mercedes of Raffaele Marcello in front of him in the hope that that is going to give him a little bit more pace. The Trezor Orange one out, he got out of the way perfectly fine there.
Yeah, but
he's bailed. Look, he's bailed on the lap.
He did, but he lost time in that middle sector. He lost 0.2 of a second. So no point in continuing. So he's decided, well, I'm currently 2nd quickest, but we know that the pace of our car is there. We've got the fastest single sector time in Sector 1. So that is knowledge that the team have. So when that car is then handed over, the 46, wonder who will go into that car next. Will it be Maxime Martin or will it be I think it might, well, I don't know. I can guess. I can only be right once or wrong once. So it'll be Maxime Martin or Valentino Rossi?
We will find out shortly, of course, as out of the car gets young Lorenzo Patrese and bags the fastest time in silver again. This time it's only good enough for 12th overall, but you know what? For a 17-year-old jumping straight in, he's been mighty.
But their race is within their own category.
Exactly.
Well, it be, we get carried away, let's say, with the front row or who's going to be in the front 3 rows, but actually there are a variety of different classes, 4 classes here throughout the weekend. It's your class that you want to focus upon.
So there is the 296. It looks spectacular, but unfortunately they haven't quite got the speed they were hoping for in the first qualifying session of the season. Rivera 15th, Pierguidi 24th. A couple of long faces, I think, at Maranello.
I think that we wait to see whether that's going to be just for one race. That car is going to be a race-winning car before the season's over.
So our pole position sitter for the moment is Enrique Chavez, and Gemma Scott is down there in pit lane with him.
Hugo, that was a sterling qualifying session from you there, and I don't think anyone's expected to see a bronze take the top spot so early on.
Well, we are in bronze class, but I was recently rated as a gold, so I think everyone could expect that. I expect that from myself. I always work for P1, so yeah, I mean, I'm very happy the team gave me a great car. I put everything in that lap. I think was a perfect lap, to be honest. This weekend, I didn't manage to put everything together. This time I did. And yeah, was enough by a little margin, but was enough for P1.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
2 bronze cars and a gold in the top 10 as well. Very impressive stuff, and good to see that the McLaren is right on the march in the very first qualifying session of the day.
Yes, I mean, we've seen a stunning lap from Enrique Chavez, but of course that car is a bronze car. So when we see whatever happens when Miguel Ramos gets into it, then Louis Petit, that I wouldn't expect to see the car quickest overall over the 3 qualifying sessions.
So here's where we are at the moment. The Garage 59 McLaren up front, the WRT and the Rove Racing BMWs 2nd, 3rd and 4th. The Iron Lynx Lamborghini, number 63 in 5th position from the number 32 WRT BMW M4. And then the CSA and Santadoc Junior Audis next up. The Optima McLaren up in 9th place, a good run there. But the championship winning car from last year, the Acadis ASP Mercedes, 10th position for the moment. That's going to be really interesting. The Sky Tempesta McLaren gets its way into the top 15. 3 bronze cars, I should say, getting that way. Lorenzo Patrese, the fastest of the silver cars, up in the top 15 as well. From the Lamborghinis of Mitchell and Porcini, and then the Ferrari of Rovera in 15th. Half a second covering them all. The dynamic Porsche, the Mercedes Almanar, and then the Trezor Orange, Butson VDS, and Comte-U Audis in the top 20. The Iron Dames Lamborghini in 21st. Good run from Rael Frey. But there is the Ferrari in 24th position for Pierguidi. Still a lot of work to do then for the new 296. But a very competitive time. And look, that's 30 cars covered by less than a second. That shows you how tight it is around the Monza circuit. And you've got to add only a little bit more incremental time to get the next 15 cars in the mix. I'm trying to figure out exactly how many cars it is covered by a second. It's 32. That is absolutely astonishing. The silver battle very close in the mix there between Butson VDS, Santadoc Junior and the Grasser Racing Lamborghini number 85. And there's a good bronze battle cooking up between Ferrari, BMW and Mercedes as well. That's going to be really interesting if they can continue that little squabble going into Q2. And of course, all the way down to the bottom end of the field, the whole field covered by 3.6 seconds at this moment in time. But still very competitive amongst silver, bronze and Pro-Am, and that's only going to continue to get more and more competitive as we get into Q2. Everybody getting times on the board. Not a single yellow flag for qualifying 1. Very impressive work from everybody.
It certainly was, bearing in mind how busy the racetrack was. The sun's beginning just to break through the clouds, so that's going to lift the track temperature even further. There's the slow-mo view that we were looking forward to seeing, and you really get to see what goes on in a racing car, especially in the chicanes where they're running the curb, and the amount of deflection that goes on in terms of the suspension movement and the interaction between that and the chassis.
So now we get ourselves ready for the second qualifying session. There you go, the Valentino Rossi fan club, which is littering the Autodromo Nazionale Monza circuit. They have all flocked in. They are really excited about seeing what he can do in the WRT BMW. And I have to say, they are looking very strong at the moment. So here's what you got to see through qualifying 1. Some good battles right from the get-go. It's a bronze car that actually tops the session with Enrique Chavez in the Garage 59 McLaren. The Tracer Orange Audi was just as quick as it was yesterday for Lorenzo Patrese. He was the fastest in silver. The championship winning car from last year in the top 10, but only just. Raffaele Marcello only able to get within 0.4 of a second. And a very interesting battle it has been so far. Dries van Tor getting in the top 6 in the first of the WRT BMWs. A big slide and lots of lock from Dan Harper as he really wrung the neck of his 998 car. Augusto Farfus almost topped the timesheets, fastest of all in the first sector. A very strong run indeed, but nobody could thwart the march of Enrique Chavez in the Garage 59 McLaren. Fastest of all in Sector 3 and fastest of all in Q1. A very strong run indeed, and great work for the guys at Woking so far. So, very interesting qualifying one for the time being. Chavez, Farfus and Harper, your top 3 drivers. It's definitely going to be different in Q2, because now it's time for the Q1 drivers to get out and the Q2 drivers to get out. What about the championship winners from last year? Raffaele Marcello only able to get to 10th position in Q1, so that could be very interesting. What does Gemma Scott have to ask him about that one?
Lello, not quite where we expected to see you there. What are you struggling with?
Nothing.
I spoke to Jerome. The BOP's been changed from yesterday, right?
I mean, yes. I mean, you can see we're all the MGR. So I mean, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lello.
Short and sweet. Nothing's wrong.
Well, you know, he's always economical with his words. I would imagine he's not over the moon about the prospect of at best, maybe starting in the 5th row of the grid, and if there's been a BOP change, to bring that car's performance fractionally back a little. It's a frustration because you're starting from a different platform from the one that you finished the pre-qualifying session on Saturday evening.
I mean, he's not going to give anything away if he knows that one of his rivals is going to be looking as well, but I guess over the course of the 3 sessions, they're pretty confident that their average is actually going to be one of the best.
I think that ultimately is where his mind is. So individually, first session, 10th position, but then you've got Jules Gunnar and then you've got Thomas Boguslavski. And that is a very strong driver lineup across all 3 drivers. So I would assume we will see the 88 Mercedes moving up the order. And after Q3, I would not be surprised to see that car maybe in the front, well, certainly in the front 3 rows at worst.
So now the cars are coming out onto the circuit again. Remember that it's the average taken from the 3 laps across the 3 sessions, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Ferrari, a very intriguing start to the season. They were not quick yesterday. They found some pace today. They are at least now within half a second. So it's going to be very tricky to see what they can actually do. So we're looking now at the Q2 times, obviously.
So I think that these sidebars will be on screen, on the TV screen will be the combined.
Indeed they will.
Time. We've got timing and scoring, which gives us the individual in our booth. So we might be talking about the individual lap times, but on screen you'll be seeing therefore the combined. So currently the McLaren is the quickest car overall, but as times then come through in this second qualifying session, that sidebar will start, your cars will move up and down depending on the performance of number 2 driver in the car in Q2.
So let's see how it all plays out as the drivers head out onto the circuit. Q2 obviously combines with Q1 to find the average, and then the 3rd session does the same thing. So it's going to be about which trio of drivers is the fastest, not just one individual lap from each session. So it really is about a teamwork strategy. As the Ferraris head out onto the circuit, we still have the AF Corsa Ferrari 488 in the bronze category, and they've been very quick with Andrea Bertolini and the Macchiels.
Yes.
So they're going to be ones to watch, I think, when Andrea Bertolini comes out later.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Andrea will be the driver who will undoubtedly give that car its best single lap over the 3 qualifying sessions. But it's interesting, we've got Louis Macchiels and his son Jeff driving together along with Andrea Bertolini. So it's a bit of a family affair, but in a 488 Ferrari, which is the car we saw up until has been used over the last 4 seasons, is now going to be superseded by the 296. But the 296 is still a work in progress, but inevitably that car will come forward and its pace will be very quickly, I suspect, unleashed. Whether it'll be here this weekend or not remains to be seen. And there is the back of the 46 WRT BMW, waiting to see which driver has been. Is it going to be Maxime Martin, or will it be timing and scoring indicating which drivers, whether it's Raffaele, not Raffaele Marcello.
Well, it's either going to be Maxime Martin or it's going to be Valentino
Rossi. Yeah,
so we'll have to figure out which driver it is going to be. And obviously there's going to be a lot of interest and intrigue around this particular car. You would not believe the queues that have been sat outside. It is Maxime Martin who's going to go out first, well, second, I should say, because Farfus did the first session. Maxime Martin will do the second. So you've got to wait, fans. You've got to wait for Valley. He's going to come out in session number 3. But I tell you what, the queues, just to get a glimpse of Valentino Rossi outside the WRT BMW garages has been monumental.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same throughout last year. So there is the number 5 McLaren, the Optimum Motorsports entry. I like that car, just whatever way the graphic. And so a very, very busy Porsche on a flying lap. Wants to ensure that he gets a clear run out of Alboreto.
Yeah, that was Cian Jewis who's taken over from Derek Pierce. So Cian Jewis now in the Parker Porsche, just trying to get himself up to speed. Very talented British karter back in the day. We have 10 minutes to go then. So now let's see how we're going to get in.
Well, right now, having been 10th in session 1, Mercedes 88 on the combined lap times so far has gone quickest overall.
Indeed they have.
Didn't take very long.
No, indeed. Boguslavski getting a 1:47.5 with the first flying lap. My goodness. That's a statement of intent, isn't it? As Sandy Mitchell pops up with a 1:47.0 on his first lap in the Lamborghini. So very quick off the mark. And Sandy Mitchell putting that Lamborghini right up to the top spot. Beretta going second for the moment. Michele Beretta in the Iron Lynx Lamborghini. And then Kay van Berlo, fastest of all in sectors 2 and 3. So this is going very well indeed for Kay van Berlo in the Grasser Racing Lamborghini as he goes top on a 1:47.093. Deliquanti in the Audi 99 goes 4th.
So Boguslavski was momentarily quickest. Now that car is 3rd behind Beretta in Lamborghini, and Marco Mappelli likewise Lamborghini. So the Lamborghinis again, we didn't see a huge amount of them at the top of the field in practice yesterday or in pre-qualifying yesterday. Now currently on the combined times of Q1 and times so far in Q2. Look at Boguslavski really wringing the neck and getting into all sorts of trouble. All that began in the transition from the entry to chicane to Ascari, then the right and then the left, just got himself slightly out of shape and ran wide, and that will have compromised this current lap for Timo Boguslavski, who in this session alone is 10th quickest, now has dropped to 11th. Lewis Proctor in the BMW, I mean, in the BMW's 1st and 2nd presently in this session.
And now Gilles Magnus,
yes.
Wow, Gilles Magnus comes and ruins that. And now Sheldon van der Linde in his BMW comes through. So Sheldon van der Linde in the number 32, 1:46.083. That is a massive lap from Sheldon van der Linde. Here's what happened.
Yeah, just watch. He gets it wrong here. Once you get the other camera view, we're not going to see that, but he gets himself all out of shape. I mean, that could spell disaster, because if you go into the gravel on the exit of Ascari, the car can either turn left or turn right. And if it turns right, that car would not be racing this afternoon.
No, indeed, they're very lucky to get away with that, but it's currently in Q2, Sheldon van der Linde's BMW in front of Gilles Magnus and Lewis Proctor, and that really has changed things quite considerably. The overall rankings in terms of the average lap, the 32 BMW is now looking at pole position. Neil Verhagen's gone 4th in Q2, and that's elevated the team to 2nd currently out of the aggregate of the 2 sessions.
Yeah, I mean, BMW, there's the 2nd car, Neil Verhagen behind the wheel. I mean, just coming through again, Ascari, the way that you're able to load and lean on that right rear. I saw Dan Harper doing it in his session in Q1, and he really nailed that thing coming through the exit of Ascari. Verhagen is doing much the same. So they've got a car which is giving the drivers shed loads of confidence to be able to lean on it and know that the car will be with them all the way through the exit of Ascari.
Right, we need to watch this BMW as it comes through, because it's going to be pretty quick on this lap by the look of it. Van der Linde's gone fastest of all in the 2nd sector, and don't forget, as Verhagen comes through to get second in the times. That's elevated the team to first on average by 0.03 of a second. But you've also got Boguslavski, personal bests in the first two sectors. Niederhauser in the 25 Audi, the Santalok Junior car, that's fastest of all in Sector 2.
But Van der Linde's gone quickest yet again, and he's heading the overall, the combined. So this car, Neil Verhagen, was quickest momentarily, drops back to second. But we've got a BMW 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here comes the Audi. This is going to be a significant lap time move up. Are we going to get the number 25 move forward? Yes, we are. Patrick Niederhauser gets a 1:46.0, and that puts them third outright, second in Q2.
And Dynamic Motorsport Porsche, well, Niederhauser squeezed through, and well, suddenly Audi, we didn't see an awful lot of them in Q1. Niederhauser has put that car second overall in this qualifying session and third combined. So it's BMW, BMW, Audi, BMW, BMW, then the first of the Lamborghinis, and then seventh is the first of the Porsche.
And that's Lewis Proctor in the number 31 WRT BMW. He was mighty in the first sector, 33.6. Then they got it terribly wrong in the middle sector. So this lap is not going to be the fastest by that crew at all. They've actually bailed and started again. Up to fifth in this session has come, is that Callan Williams in the 30 BMW? It is indeed. So he's worked very hard indeed. And those two are actually there on track about the same time as each other now. So they could end up assisting each other with a bit of a tow, but now getting out of the way there to give Lewis Proctor the run, because they know that that car is the fastest of all in Sector 1.
Yeah, well, it's important not to let your teammate get handicapped, as we look into Adam Carroll looking on, waiting to see, making observations and comments to his teammate. So, yeah, that doesn't look too bad.
Right, Maxime Martin's gone up to fourth in Q1, and that puts the 46 BMW, the Valentino Rossi car, into first overall.
And we've got 4.5 minutes remaining.
So there is the number 25, the Santalok Junior Audi. This is Patrick Niederhauser, fastest of all in Sector 2, comparable in Sector 1. This could be a very strong lap indeed. Can they go 1:45 as they come across the line this time by? No, not quite. The third sector was a little bit off, so Niederhauser does not improve. But the Santalok Junior Audi still looking good. Second in Q2, fourth overall at the moment with the combination of the lap times. Andrea Caldarelli's gone seventh, and that puts them, the 63 Lamborghini, in the top 5.
The 188 Garage 59 McLaren, that was the quickest car overall in Q1. Now with Miguel Ramos behind the wheel, combining his time and the time from Q1, dropped from first, or quickest overall, down to 8th. Still a good performance from that Garage 59 McLaren to retain what is provisionally, anyway, a top 10 start position. That, again, you're going to have to put in Louis Petit for that final session, so that may have a bearing on overall start positions. But what a grid dominated by BMW.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. The number 32 car, that is Sheldon van der Linde, fastest in Q1, fastest in Sector 1 as well. Reasonably, they've had a lot of time lost in Sector 2, actually, a 36.7 there from Sheldon van der Linde, so they need to dial in and go again. In the background, Ferrari starting to make a little bit of progress now. Davide Rigon has gone 14th, 0.7 of a second away from the pace. Robert Schwartzman really struggling on his debut, 1.2 seconds back, down in 32nd.
I think it's, you know, it's a culture shock. So the BMW comes in the 32, and we look at Dries van Thor. They must be at the minute feeling we are in, well, they're 69 thousandths of a second in this session quicker than Patrick Niederhauser in the Audi. And right now, I was looking at the time and scoring, we're 28th all the way down to 55th. So that's
at the moment,
second half of the grid.
At the moment, in the aggregate, you've got BMWs 1, 2, and 3, WRT, WRT, and Rove, and it's the 46 ahead of the 32 for the moment. So with Valentino Rossi about to get into the car, they must be quietly confident at the number 32 crew that they're going to get pole position for the moment.
But in the meantime, Maxime Martin has gone purple Sector 1 on this flying lap, so he hasn't given up that hope for the 46 car. So Valentino Rossi will be sitting, waiting in the pit, standing in the pit. I suspect he's getting more and more nervous as the clock talks down, just under 2 minutes of this session remaining. So a middle sector time that was, it's not bad. It's been Verhagen in the sister car has gone fractionally quicker in Sector 2 than Maxime Martin. So there it's in the middle of these three cars, the second of the BMWs, the Rover Racing one, So Heather Martin will be compromised. It looks to me marginally losing time. And
Yeah, I think they've
it
decided
looked like
to go.
he's got one more lap before the flag comes out. Yes, he can go again.
He's got one more chance to give something out of that. So up to second comes Wittmann in the 98 Rove. So that was the one that was following in behind him. So Marco Wittmann has popped the 98 Rove BMW up into second in Q2, and that's put them on top. So the Rove BMW's just taken the overall pole position for the time being.
And BMWs are now combined sessions so far with a minute to go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Audi is the first of the non-BMWs in 5th place. Then Lamborghini, Andrea Caldarelli, a man who, 3 seasons ago was the dominant driver car pairing. And then we've got Miguel Ramos, who he's done a very good job. He's dragged the McLaren. It had been in 8th position about a minute or two ago. Now it's up to 7th. And then you've got Marco Mappelli in 8th place in the Lamborghini.
The average lap of these top 4 BMWs across Q1 and Q2 is less than a 1/10 of a second between the 4 different cars.
Well, the first 2 in this session have recorded identical times.
That's incredible.
But of course, Sheldon van der Linde did that earlier in the session, so that's why he's still credited with being quickest overall.
Yeah, Sheldon van der Linden a 1:45.957. Marco Wittmann a 1:45.957. I don't see that every day.
No, Andrea Caldarelli, who has been an absolute ace and star, but pulls into the pit lane, and that's the end of his session. The flag is now out. So Q2. Where did it go? I mean, you can barely catch your breath.
You can't get a cigarette paper between the 4 BMWs on average. 16 thousandths of a second between the Rove 98 and the 46 WRT. 42 thousandths of a second back is Sheldon van der Linde. 75 thousandths of a second back is the Rove 998.
There are 5 BMWs in the top 7. I mean, talk about keeping your cards close to your chest all through Saturday running.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Pretty good stuff in Q2. The BMWs very much are quick. Mercedes languishing behind. In fact, the leading Mercedes is that one, Lucas Stoltz, who comes across the line. He was 12th. Is he going to make improvement? He does, to 8th. So that really has changed things in the treble 7. Lucas Stoltz is 9th. Well, it's definitely very exciting at the moment. Let's hear from the Silver Cup fastest time from the previous one. Oh no, it's his father, Riccardo Patrese, is in pit lane with Gemma.
Riccardo Patrese, it's great to have you here in the paddock with us. Obviously, you're supporting Lorenzo and the team. You must feel incredibly proud to see how well they're running at the moment.
Yes, I'm very happy for him because he's willing to be a racing driver. Of course, he's still very young, a lot of experience to come, but the good thing is that he's enjoying very much and he's also going not so bad.
And to have the Patrese name here on the grid in Monza is something pretty special once again.
Yes, I think in Monza always perform very well myself, and also Lorenzo looks to like very much this circuit. So I think that with these mates in the car, they can do a good race this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Riccardo.
Thank you very much.
Not bad to see a man who's quite synonymous with this place, and what a fantastic
Well, he's got bittersweet memories, I think, but he's turned into a very charming former Grand Prix driver.
Check that out. Q2, 4 BMWs separated by less than a 1/10 of a second. This is the combined classification, of course. This is how things stand after Q2. Audi, Lamborghini and McLaren have still got cars in the top 10, as has Mercedes with the Engel Stoltz Schiller machine, the treble 7. That's the Almanar Mercedes. The leading silver is still the Patrese Deleguanti Acker Audi, the Trezor Attempto car. And the leading gold car is still the McLaren. So that's going to be a really interesting battle as they continue to make solid progress. Well, Ferrari have made a little bit of a gain, 18th position and 23rd. So they're getting slightly further up the ranks on average, but they really want race strategy to be their saving grace so far this weekend. It's going to be very tricky. The Sky McLaren of Cheever, Hoy and Froggatt, they're in the mid-pack and certainly making gains on the 911 Porsche. But it's still very tight all the way through. A lot of good progress to come. Look at the battle that we're getting in the bronze and silver categories, just outside the top 30. Rail Frey, Sarah Bovey and Michelle Gatting currently topping that little quartet of crews in the bottom end of the Bronze Cup there. The Silver crews having a very exciting battle there as well. The Mad Panda, Mercedes battling in there with the Hezemans de Jong and Hutchison Audi. And all the way down. 2.6 is now the average, all the way down to 55th position. Great to see that we have had 2 qualifying sessions of high intensity around the Temple of Speed. And there was not one yellow flag.
Again. Now we've got one more 15-minute session remaining. Let's not hope that by commentators' curse, yellow flag. So very shortly, action will recommence. And it's been, I mean, I can only say, a remarkable qualifying, and it illustrates what we see, what we had seen, yesterday afternoon in that pre-qualifying session, had borne nothing whatsoever to do with what we're seeing here in qualifying Sunday morning.
Sensational stuff so far here in Monza. Qualifying 2 was all about one manufacturer, BMW. Boy, did they turn up to play. McLaren still looking very good with the number 5 crew as they battle for the gold pole position, and the Optima Motorsport McLaren going strong. The 88, there or thereabouts, but nowhere near in terms of getting the fast time. 26th in the end for Timo Boguslavski. That's really hampered them. But BMW really woke up and paid attention. Lewis Proctor, very quick across Q2. The Audi is still hanging on in there with the Santalok Junior team. Patrick Niederhauser going 3rd quickest. But it was an absolute dead heat between the WRT number 32 and 98 Robe Racing BMW crews, with both Marco Wittmann and Sheldon van der Linde setting a time of 1 minute 45.957, equal to the 1,000th of a second. This battle for pole position is still going to be very intense indeed heading into Q3. Who is going to get it? Well, this is the 15-minute session that will decide that. What about one of the 2 drivers that set that 1 minute 45.957 lap time? They were equal to the 1,000th upset the BMW party in Munich.
Yeah, I mean, just to keep referring back to Raffaele Macchio, to Valentino Rossi, he is in the car for the first time since he had that off coming into, now call it Alboreto, as that's the name of the...
You sound bitterly disappointed with this name change.
I love it.
It's Parabolica. We know it's Parabolica.
I just love the old names, but it was a decision made by the circuit to change it in respect, out of respect to Michele Alboreto. So the last time he was in the car driving it was when it backed into those Tech Pro barriers. So he will need on his out lap to very quickly regroup his confidence and know and trust in the car, so that when he does lean on it, and he's not going to get too many opportunities, he will be compromised, as everybody is in the final qualifying, by a lot of traffic around you. So how you find yourself in a clearish lap, even you might only get 2 sectors clear and have a small compromise on one of those 3. It's a lot, I'm sure, a lot going through the mind of Valentino Rossi right now.
I mean, when you consider that you've got 55 cars out there covered by 2.6 seconds, there is a second covering 31 of those after the first 2 sessions. If you make just the slightest error on your fastest lap, if you make just the minutest of mistakes, that could cost the team 10, maybe 15 places.
I mean, I can't emphasize, just from the garage, still all helmeted and booted, so cars are being pushed.
Right.
So that might...
Does that mean we're done for Q3?
Well, let's wait and get an official announcement before we start speculating, but it would indicate that maybe